Aussie, Aussie, Aussie! 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 Aussie, Aussie, Aussie! Bow your heads. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Canberra. Some time ago we asked 5 million people to turn up. Well, the police reported yesterday that 1.4 million vehicles entered the city. And that didn't include yesterday's numbers and last night's numbers, and if you're in last night's queue, you knew there were a few hours of stationary traffic just waiting to get in patiently. So I think we did a pretty good job. What do you reckon? What you are participating in right now is unprecedented in Australian political history. This has never happened before. Now, we came together initially because of the vax, the mandate, the masks, the lockdowns, but it's more than that. And I'm just interested, by a show of hands, who thinks it's more than just the there you go. Thank you for that, because the fake stream media will tell you that 20 or 30 people turned up today, and they're all mad, keen, tinfoil hat wearing loons. The good news is the fake stream media is collapsing and cracking. The stories are starting to come out. They are losing and we are winning. This is a time where Australia is coming to maturity in a political sense, because we've never had to fight on our country for our land before, but now we have to, because the slime and filth that inhabits that building up there is delivering the final stages of an exquisitely designed and patiently executed plan that was designed to kill you and take your land. It is as simple as that. They've been doing this forever. Now I said we had to come together. There's a good friend of mine, a guy called David Cole. His tribal name is Lumpa. He's up in the NT. Who's heard of Lumpa? David, you're a popular man here in Canberra. That's a good thing. He did a video, and see if you can find it. Came out a couple of days ago. We spoke and said, we've got to communicate to the people. He said, not a problem, brother. We'll do it. And in that video, he described what was happening in the NT. The government would announce COVID hotspots. And then immediately after they cleared out the locals, the exploration teams went in. Mining, exploration, minerals, wealth, our wealth. Straight after that, the lease applications went in. That's what this is about. I mean, how dumb is that? That's what this is about, a land grab. And they're doing it to you too. So it's not just the black land they want, it's the white land too. Who's heard about the title deeds to the properties who are being digitised and sold off to a corporation? Show of hands, just like, there you go. Nothing like a well-informed crowd that knows what's going on. They want us gone so they can take this place over for themselves. That's all this is. So when we're saying we're going to come together, that means black and white. Now, why is that? Because the way that they have succeeded is they have divided us. Black versus white. Man versus woman. Children versus parents. Jew versus Christian versus Muslim versus Hindu versus atheist versus everybody. What you understand, but the rest of the country probably isn't across yet, is that the leadership of every aspect of our life in Australia, the polity, the bureaucracy, the judiciary, the military, the constabulary, the academia, media, big business, big unions, the church, the synagogues, the mosques, the lodges, the temples, the leadership of all our little tribes and all our little groups are utterly corrupted, mainly by Masonic filth. And so what these characters up here are doing are getting us to fight each other every day of the week. And it's always plausible. That's the worst part. When we come together, not if, when, they will have lost, because they've lost the only leverage they have. So what we've got to do is separate ourselves from the leadership and come together down here, the membership, the average, decent, generous, kind Australian that you're looking around at right now. I do a lot of talks in front of a lot of people, and I love seeing all the flags. It's brilliant. We've got the red ensign, the blue ensign, we've got the Eureka Stockade, we've got national flags, French, Italian, Austrian, Serb, the black one. It's brilliant. That's our past. It's where we came from. It's made us who we are. Small problem. With that history comes pain and regret. The time has come for us to come together as a mature civilization. Let the dead bury the dead. We have to come together as one people, one country, one flag. And when we do that, one people, one country, one flag, they will never ever be able to divide us again, and this will never have to happen again. Does that make sense? So that day is coming. That day is coming. The sooner it comes, the sooner we win. And we've got the First Nations people on board too. Because every time I say that at one of my talks, everybody cheers. The blacks and the whites, because they're sick to death of being played like two sides of a game of chess. We are sick to death of being played by the Masonic filth up there. It's time we upended the board and said, get stuffed. Now, this is brilliant. Look around at you. This is a moment in history for Australia. It really is. This is important and it's huge. But it's not just about the mandates, because you hear people say, oh, just get rid of the mandates. Come back on the 29th of March. Anybody saying that is in the pay of these people, because they know that if we dissipate, it'll never happen again. You know why? Because in a month's time, it's going to be autumn. It's going to be winter. It's going to be cold. Nobody's coming back. And the conditions that allowed this to happen in the first place will be reintroduced and locked down even harder. And what's happening after that is this. They will say, let's let some people from overseas come in. Triple vax, not a problem. And then they'll announce, coincidentally, there's been a spike in COVID. And then they'll lock you all down again. And then they'll say, well, we have to have an election, but you can't vote unless you're double or triple vaxxed. And then they're going to say, and this actually happened, the Australian Electoral Commission, reporting to the Joint Committee on Electoral Matters, so it's run by Labor, Liberal, National and Green slime, they requested that Dominion election counting machines be introduced into the Australian system. I gather you know about Dominion. That's what those bastards want. Scott Morrison and Anthony Albanese and the rest of the Masonic slime up here want to steal your election just one more time. Are you going to let them do it? That's what they have planned. So how do we get out of this mess? How do we do it? Very simple. Now, you've got to understand something. Our job is not to storm Parliament House. Our job is not to disarm the police. Our job is not to do any of that. That's somebody else's job, and that's in hand. So we're not alone. There are international forces at play here. We are not the only ones that know what's going on. Does that make sense? And there are others that know what's going on, and they are far more powerful than we are. And they might be wearing light-coloured headgear. So, our job is very simple. Keep the pressure on. This scares them. And a unified Australia terrifies them. We are very close to victory, folks, but we've got to keep pushing. We've got to keep pushing. When someone is wobbling, your adversary is wobbling, you don't give them a breather, you hit them twice as hard. Metaphorically, of course. Non-violent, non-cooperation is our gig. That's the way we do this, okay? Non-violent, non-cooperation. Our job is just to be here. Just being here is a massive victory. We asked for millions and we got it. So in order to make sure we pursue the right end state, in the military we call it an end state. What are you aiming towards? How do you know you're winning? And just for the younger ones in the audience, and I'm talking to the sort of 18 to 25-year-old men, because we're stupid at that age. We don't know the difference between fighting and winning. And when you're 18, 19, 20, 21, you want to fight. But do you want to fight or do you want to win? Big difference, folks, big difference. And here's how we do it. We recently demanded that the Governor-General, His Excellency General David Hurley, show himself to the Australian people. Not because he's in any danger, but he is the most senior appointment in this country. And he has a responsibility to every one of you, a constitutional responsibility to every one of you. He doesn't have an option here. He's got a job to do. It's on his duty statement. And his job, one of them, is to make sure that that place runs constitutionally. Now, who here might think that there might be some unconstitutional behaviour up there? Just show of hands out of curiosity. Their existence is entirely unconstitutional. We know that. It's a corporate government. There is no law in this country, certainly nothing that they've done. But the Governor-General must, if there is evidence of unconstitutional behaviour, and Blind Freddy could find it, he must warn the Parliament that their behaviour is unconstitutional and they must cease. If they continue, and this is in your constitution, he is authorised to and required to dissolve the entire Parliament. Now, just in case His Excellency General David Hurley isn't sure where the will of at least some of the people is, do you want them sacked? Yeah! Sack them all! 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 Okay. Sack them all! Your Excellency General David Hurley, this is not an entire sample of Australia's wishes, but I'll bet my bottom dollar that the moment you sack them all, there will be jubilation across the entire Australian continent. Now, recently, 3 learned members of the law opined that for the Governor-General to dissolve Parliament would be unprecedented. As if that's some sort of impediment. Really? Well, the genocide of our entire nation is reasonably unprecedented too, wouldn't you think? So just maybe, we need some unprecedented actions. They didn't say it was illegal. They actually said, let the politicians work it out. So maybe, just maybe, an unprecedented attack on the sovereignty of Australia, on your lives, your liberty and your property. Maybe, just maybe, some unprecedented action might be required from the Governor-General. What do you reckon? Yeah! Right. So His Excellency General David Hurley dissolves Parliament. There are parties throughout the land. And by the time we sober up, what he is required to do by the Constitution is appoint an Executive Council. Now, that's within his purview. He can appoint anybody he wants. And it doesn't even have to be an MP, especially when we don't want an MP. They have 3 months. And they've got a very limited remit, and that is twofold. 1, get rid of any restrictions imposed upon the Australian people under the COVID pandemic. Gone. That's one, but that's not enough. That's not enough. Because those conditions that allowed this to happen must be removed. So how do we do that? That Executive Council, which is constitutional language for what we call a cabinet, they're actually ministers that run the show, but this Executive Council, apart from cleaning up the COVID nonsense, they clean up the electoral system. Because we know it's corrupted and we know it's corrupt. I'm not saying the head of the AEC is corrupt. He's a lovely bloke. I knew him at the Royal Military College. He's thick as two short planks. A lovely guy. Not too bright. Does what he's told. Pat him on the head, he'll go and do it. But the organisation is completely corrupted. How do we know that? Because the Australian National Audit Office about 6-7 years ago did an audit of the AEC, and they had a huge list of recommendations to tidy it up. Guess how many of those they have implemented? Bugger all! Bugger all. And so they know it's busted. And so this Executive Council appointed by the Governor-General, their primary responsibility after getting rid of the mandate nonsense is to clean up the system so you and I, for the first time in maybe 50, 60 years, will have a free and fair election and actually actually elect somebody who's going to vote for your interests in that place. How does that sound? This is what the Constitution requires. There's nothing strange about this. Now, once you get a decent parliament, and remember this, folks, vote for somebody you know, trust and like. Don't vote for a colour, don't vote for an organisation. Vote for the person you know. And the classic example I use is Jacko from Upper Kumbukta West, who's always up at Bunnings every weekend, flipping the burgers, raising money for the kids with cancer. Does that make sense? Yeah. Somebody who's got a deep history in their community of service and generosity to the people. Because that's a person you know, trust and like to represent you here. And if you don't know anything about politics, that's actually an advantage. Yeah. It's not that hard. So vote for someone you know, trust and like. Once that happens, we will have, and this is the last part of the puzzle, we're going to have a constitutional convention. Now, this will be preceded by an educative process to make sure you know what a good constitution looks like, because there's 1,000 of them. Here's one small tip. If you hear a politician saying this is the one to vote for, don't walk, run the other direction. Because the politicians will give you a bullshit constitution that gives them more power than you. Does that make sense? The last time they tried this in 1999, Professor David Flint, emeritus professor of law, said the one that they were trying to give the people, it would have been easier for the Prime Minister to sack the Governor-General than sack his own driver. They are about concentrating power. We must be about dispersing power to make it hard for anybody to grip up the whole nation. Does that make sense? So we've got to know, we've got to learn what makes a good constitution, because a constitution is nothing more than a guard against human nature. Because as we know, the line between good and evil doesn't live over there or over there. It's a line that divides every man and woman on this planet. We have to make a choice every day to stay on the right side of that line. Make sense? Right. So this constitution has got to keep the bastards honest. And you've got to pick a good one. So we have this educative process, then we have the Constitutional Convention, and you, for the first time in your lives, will have the ability to decide for yourself how and by whom you will be governed. How does that sound? And we can build things into it to make sure they never take control again. Things like recall elections, where if your MP turns out to be a busted flush, you can sack him mid-term. How does that sound? Imagine being able to sack Dan Andrews right now. There are things we need to do to make sure this never happens again. We get this constitution and baby, watch this country take off. This is going to be the greatest country the world has ever seen. The rest of the planet's going to look at us and say, can you please help us? We've got to do this the Aussie way. And we'll say, sure, sit down, have a beer. We'll show you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so close to victory. We are so close. Keep the pressure up. Keep the pressure up. If you've got to go home this week, do that. Come back next Saturday. Yeah. We do not leave until we win. Yeah. Aussie! Aussie, Aussie, Aussie! Thank you very much.
Thank you, the man with the godly plan, Riccardo Bosi, right there. Okay, we're going to have another speaker from a mob, bro, from the mob in a minute. Before we do,